Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com. You can find my books that are available on Amazon, as well as my website, Dismantling Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough, and Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth. And Raised by These Wolves, How Family and Federal Courts Are Failing Our Children, as well as Raised by These Wolves Volume 2, which will be released early July. And feel free to buy me a coffee to help keep this podcast going. I'm very happy to have my friend on, my return guest. She was last on my podcast, Season 5, Episode 98, which was April 8th of 2024, Evelyn Hemphill. She is an advocate on social media, Evelyn the Advocate, and she's a domestic violence survivor times 2. And she's an advocate turned activist, also during her family court and custody case where she had to go pro se. The last time we talked about the negative impact family court has on society. So today we're going to talk about how there is no justice and it is impossible to receive justice in the family court system, as well as the transfer of wealth where the violations take place on another person. So I totally welcome you, Evelyn Hemphill. Glad to have you.
Hi, hi, Marianne. Thank you for having me back on your platform.
Oh, definitely. We have a lot to go over.
We do.
So now, as far as no justice, what has happened to you in your case?
Well, since we last interviewed, I was waiting for a response from the South Carolina Resolution of Fee Disputes Board. And I received a letter stating that 3 years had passed. So I am barred. The application is time barred, and the board cannot accept it for processing against my last attorney.
Oh, now,
So it's already set up basically before you go into court. They already know how they're gonna make a counter move on you when you try to make your move. It's already in place.
right, it's already set up. People don't realize.
Yep. And I want to know, how would an average person that has no legal background realize what is happening to them at that moment?
Mm-hmm.
You're traumatized, you're broke, and you're just not your normal self. You're experiencing post-traumatic stress syndrome because of all the events and stuff that have happened. So how is it possible for a regular individual to know what is actually happening? It is impossible, in my opinion.
I agree. I totally agree with you.
But at the time, the major players, they know exactly what's happening
Mm-hmm.
because that's their profession. They know how to move through the maneuver through the court system. They do it every day.
Mm-hmm. And they have their friends.
They have their friends and other relationships that are going to cover for them.
Oh, yes. Yes. And, I know you mentioned PTSD, and I have also found people that, like when it's a long year block of years, it turns into a complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which is,
I believe it.
yeah, which is even, just
It's
as,
even worse.
yes.
Yep, it's even worse. I have been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress syndrome, but I would say at this moment, I'm not really having any symptoms, but I do have that diagnosis
Mm-hmm.
because of this court case.
Oh, definitely. Now, how long have you been in court?
I'm out of court now. I was in court for I believe, let me see, 12 years total.
Oh,
I just made it through the South Carolina Appellate Court, which my appeal was dismissed
mm-hmm.
because I'm not an attorney, and I failed to include my 4-day court transcript onto everything. But you know what? To me, that's all well and good, because everything that I talk about on these interviews are a part of the court record.
Mhm.
That way, nobody can come after me and say that I'm not telling the truth about something.
Right.
So I feel okay about that part with the appeal being dismissed. But yes, I am angry about all my rights being violated along with my child's. I'm angry about that.
And also because your attorney caused these problems.
Yes, multiple attorneys cause these problems, not just one, multiple.
Mhm. Same here. I think people find this out later, like you said.
They don't know what's happening at that moment.
Mm-mm.
They know that something is wrong, but they don't know what is wrong. It takes a while. I mean, it takes a long time to unravel a mess
Mhm.
and find out exactly what happened. It takes years,
Mhm.
because it took me years. And,
It
and some people may feel like, oh, this is an old case. No, but there's new cases coming forth. So
uh-huh.
we're trying to put out this information so that people will be mentally prepared
Mhm.
as to what can happen during these new cases that are coming. Because family court, it makes a lot of money in the United States.
Exactly, and it's a $1 billion a year business between Title IV B, D, and E.
Yep. So I'm doing advocacy and activism to try to prepare people for what can happen.
Yeah, and there's so much that can happen, and people just don't realize when they're playing with personality disorders.
Major ones. And
Mhm.
probably the people that are representing you, I don't think that most of them, a lot of them, I don't know what kind of personality disorders they may be experiencing, but this stuff is not normal. There's
No.
no way for somebody to say that these behaviors are normal, the way that people will victimize another person, especially in a courtroom, and you are actually paying that person.
Oh,
Something's wrong there.
I completely
Definitely.
yes. I think this is why I think judges and attorneys should have psychological evaluations yearly, and they should be drug tested randomly if doctors and nurses and other people that hold other people's lives in their hands, they should be drug tested.
I
And
totally agree, because I
yeah.
work in the medical field. I've
Mhm.
been drug tested before by my employer. As a matter of fact, in the custody case, I had to submit evidence of the drug test to the court, because they wanted to, I guess, pretend that I was on drugs and that I was crazy, because I wouldn't let them just walk away with what
Mhm.
they had done. And as of today, I'm never going to let them walk away. I'm going to keep talking about it. I'm
Mhm.
going to keep spreading the word about it until I can do that no more.
Mhm. Mhm. I mean, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing because I'm not letting them get away with this. And some people will say, well, you're holding on to the past. It's like, no, I'm trying to warn other people so this doesn't happen to them.
That's right. Because if you go somewhere without any knowledge, God only knows what's going to happen to you.
Mhm.
It won't be good.
No, it will not. And like you said, people do not see this coming. They don't realize the players are all playing in the same sandbox. Your own attorney can sabotage your case.
They can sabotage it. They can type up papers with incorrect information on it. They can possibly go and meet with the other attorneys and
Mhm.
other court officials and stuff like that. All of that is real. When I first went through this, I was thinking, okay, well, this is a private case. I have a chance. I
Mhm.
have a paid attorney, this and that. I've had how many attorneys? 4 attorneys. And it was a failure. They failed me miserably,
Mhm.
all of them. And you know what? they got paid. They all got paid from me.
Yeah. Yeah. Regardless of whether you win or lose, they're still getting paid.
I don't really think they care if you win or lose in family court. I
No,
really don't think that they care. As long as they get their money, that's what's important.
you know, the one attorney that was supposed to be handling my case, but he handed the case to an underling because he didn't want to argue in front of this judge. Okay. They play these games where they will not take a case in front of a judge because they want to win in some other case. And I remember I was in the office waiting area of the attorney's office, and my father and I, we were sitting there, and this attorney walked by, and I said, he said, "How's it going?" And I said, "Oh, just waiting to get screwed over." He goes, "Yeah." And he goes into his office. And I'm
Yeah, he already knew. It was already pre-planned.
right. I was shocked he did that.
And I want to know, if you're afraid to go and argue in front of this certain judge, what business do you have of being an attorney?
Mhm.
It shouldn't be that way.
No.
You instead of being loyal to the client that spent their hard earned money, they're loyal to something else, to some kind of so-called professional relationship that
Mhm.
they've developed with someone. But you still want people's money.
And that's what it comes down to, and people have to realize when you fight for your child, you're going to dump a lot of money. You're gonna be swiping charge cards like I was, uh, taking out loans. It
That's exactly what I had to do.
Mhm.
And I am so glad that when I was married to my second abuser, I watched my credit.
Mm,
That's another thing that people have to realize. Instead of going out getting all these materialistic things, if
mhm,
something happens during your marriage and you don't have access to financial resources,
mhm,
you're done. That's how it works.
mhm. Yeah, this is just, people don't, realize. I remember I was sitting down in domestic relations waiting to go into, some more fraud, and lies of omission. But this poor woman sat down next to me and she's trying to fill out this pink form. And she said that her ex locked her out of the house and completely changed the locks, and she has no place to live. And I was like horrified because it's like, I'm so glad that didn't happen to me.
Well, it happened to me, but I had a place to go because I was trying to exit the marriage.
Mhm,
I took the wrong way to exit because of all the abuse and stuff that I was experiencing, but
mm,
I was able to have a place to go. But once I started actually fighting in the court case again with the third attorney,
mhm,
by that time I had somewhere else to go, but I was almost broke.
mhm.
I was very close to being broke. And I spent over $100,000 in this case and no justice. Yeah, my son has grown up, the child is grown, but that still does not excuse what happened during the process.
Right.
And see, I don't hear anything from the players, the people that were involved in this. All of them have ran and they're hiding now.
Yes.
But for one thing, when they look on social media, they can see that Evelyn Hemphill is not hiding.
Mhm.
Evelyn Hemphill has a voice and she's going to keep speaking for others and for herself. I'm not hiding. What I'm doing now is exposing exactly what happened during the case. I
And
don't have a reason to hide.
right. And your son, like, how old was he when this was going on?
He was just, when it started, he was 6 years old.
Ah,
And he was a small child. He was a small child and he didn't deserve it. He didn't deserve the decisions that the court made when it came down to him. That's another reason why I'm doing it. You don't mess with people's children. That's one thing that you don't do.
Right. Right. Because these judges don't look at evidence and they hand the child over to the abuser.
And that's exactly what happened in my case.
Same. Yes. I'm so sorry.
It's okay, but now, I'm just able to, I'm glad that God got me through that process. It was a hard, very, very hard process. I had no idea how I was going to get through it, but I did.
Mm-hmm.
Through the grace of God. Even though I made my mistakes, I got through it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm able to be a voice to inform other people. I would advise you not to really trust your attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
You need to educate yourself before you go into court and know exactly what's supposed to happen, how it's supposed to happen, and when it's supposed to happen. Because in these family court cases, there's a short time period
Mm-hmm.
that you have. And if you run out of time, you're done.
And they want you to run out of time.
They move so quickly on you, it'll make, like I said before, it'll make your head spin.
Mm-hmm. Now,
They already have most of those documents pre-typed.
right.
All they have to do is go and have them mailed to you. When I was a pro se litigant, even in the South Carolina Court of Appeals, every day I got home from work, there would be legal documentation in my mailbox every single day. And I was able to, like I said, because of the grace of God, I was able to fight in that court for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I responded to everything that they sent me, but it was a hard job, but somebody had to do it.
Oh, you have to do it because you know your case better than anyone else.
Those documents were written in my mind and also were written on my heart because it was about my child. I knew about all the documents that I had, even though I had to piece most things together because one of my attorneys actually stole my file. And I had to go back to the court and try to piece things together. I had a few documents and I had to go back down to the family court and go through the file and try to get documents out of there that were supposedly filed in there. I can tell you this much, there wasn't much.
Were things missed in your docket? Like not entered into your docket, I mean?
A lot of things were missed. When I finally became a pro se litigant, I went back to the beginning of the case and I had to inform the court that this had not been presented to the court. That had not been presented to the court. While the opposing attorney kept saying, we're not here for that case. You shouldn't be able to enter that evidence. But hey, this is a family court custody case. Every aspect should be talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had no legal representation for 12 years until God allowed me to take my case as a pro se litigant. That's when the court was able to get this information that was all hidden for 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
it was a very one-sided case, very one-sided.
Same. Yep. We have so much in common, Evelyn.
We do. That's why we have to educate people about what's going on. Did they try to portray that you had mental problems? Because they definitely tried to act like I had some.
Right. Well, it's not funny. You should mention that. But as soon as we got in there and the judge, all rise, everyone sits down, the opposing attorney stands up and said, Your Honor, she's mentally ill and she's alienating the children from the father. I'm like, what?
I had to take 2 psychological tests. The first test I took, I had attorney representation.
Mm-hmm.
They were taking a while to give me the results, and I felt very funny about that. I was like, I need to see these results of this test.
Mm-hmm.
It said that I suffer from battered wife syndrome on the test. And my second abuser, he was not ordered to take a test at that time.
Mm.
We went back before the court. The judge made the whole family take a test. And both of those tests came back saying that I'm truthful.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them came back saying that I was histrionic. Oh yeah, I'm hysterical because you can't see what's actually happening to me. Yeah, and I don't suffer from low self-esteem. So yeah, at times I do think it's all about me. I should.
Mm-hmm. Because they're
Even though
making it
I'm a
all about
survivor,
you.
right. Even though I'm a survivor of domestic violence, nobody is gonna take my dignity from me. And it seems to me that's what the court system likes to try to do. They like to try to shut you down and shut you up. But that's not gonna happen with me.
Well, in my psychological eval, which was very interesting, he did very well. In fact, the lawyer that I had was thrilled. He was going to use this same doctor in other cases because he gave me a really good psych eval, and the opposition couldn't shut it down. The last sentence that this doctor wrote was that he questions the ex-husband's motives. And I don't know why that wasn't discussed in court.
Well, I had to take 2 tests,
Mm.
and I kind of remember the tests were similar.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I know, I don't think that it's legal for you to have to take the same similar test 2 times
Right.
because they'll be altered. But that's what I had to do. And I did it, and I had to pay for these
Oh,
tests.
I was just going to ask you that. Yes.
The first time they asked me to find a counselor that would administer this test, I said, okay, I'm a research type person. I'm a go-getter. I'm going to go find this counselor. Despite the fact that I had a retained attorney at the time, I went and found this counselor, paid the person. They administered the test. When the results got back, I didn't hear anything from anybody. I
Mm.
had to force these people's hand to give me the results. You want to know why? Because there were no significant psychological issues on that test. That's why I never heard anything. And that's when I fired my last attorney. That was enough.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
So everybody knows that I do not have any psychological problems. None.
None. No, same
I'm
here.
just not, huh?
I mean, it's the only thing that they could point out was that I was, what was it? Depressed mood. I wonder why, right? An adjustment disorder with depressed mood, something like that. But it was all situational. It was caused by the family court system.
Yeah, it was caused by them. And just like my results being histrionic, an abusive person had custody of my son. I'm surprised that more than histrionic didn't come out
Mm-hmm.
in the test. Hey, because the court couldn't tell me I lived with the abuser. They didn't live with the abuser. I did.
Mm-hmm.
And my son had to live there
Oh.
with that same person. But they were a shining star when it came down to the family court system
Mm-hmm.
at that time. But now that the truth is coming out, I haven't heard anything from anybody. And
Oh,
I don't think I will hear anything because they all have ran and hidden behind the system that protects them.
most definitely. It just, even your own abusers, have you found they can't look you in the eye?
I would never, I have no relationship with my second abuser.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be anywhere near that individual because of what they went into the courtroom and done. They played victim.
Mm-hmm.
They know that they were the aggressor the whole time.
Mhm.
They
Yeah,
made a joke of the whole South Carolina family court system. That's what they did.
this is just terrible. And, I'm sorry that happened to you and other people that are going through this or just walking into this mess or being sucked into this mess. Like, I was sucked into it. I didn't want to go in there. I would rather just, can we talk this out? He wouldn't do it.
I had to reply because I had to go in. And
Mm,
when I went in, I had a paid attorney on record, but I was there by myself, even during the first trial. When I tell you the attorneys that I retained, they really messed that case up.
mm.
They really messed it up.
Now
They really did.
they messed it up by, did they withhold evidence that they should have given to the judge?
Withholding evidence, not showing up to hearings,
Um,
typos. I mean, all kinds of unbelievable things. Just unbelievable. I
mhm,
couldn't believe it was happening. It happened and it was real and it impacted my life
forever.
tremendously and the child's life.
And this is a forever thing. People don't realize it just because family court is over. It can affect you physically, still emotionally. People have nightmares.
Yep, it made me develop a thyroid problem, but my thyroid is in remission. I'm okay now, but I did have to go to an endocrinologist for 2 years to seek medical treatment because of the stress that I was subjected to by the court system and
Mm,
by the players in the court. But I'm okay now.
mm,
God strengthened me, and I'm on a quest to expose the system. That's what I'm on a quest to do, and I'm going to continue to do it. See, the sweet thing about how God worked it out concerning me, he moved the attorneys out of the way, and I can use my voice. I'm the one that filed the paperwork, so I can use my voice to speak the truth. There's no middle person.
right.
That's what I'm so happy about.
I totally agree with you because when I first entered into this mess, my ex had a female attorney who was like an animal. She didn't even behave like a normal human being. And I was warned by my attorney that her and her husband are perpetual liars and they're a big problem to the family law community. And I'm thinking, oh no. But if you saw her in action, you would be like, is this person needs a psychological evaluation. So I just started praying to God, can you get her out of my life? Dear God, just get her out of my life. And God moved pretty quick because within 4 to 5 months, I get a letter from my lawyer stating that she had cancer.
Oh, well,
Oh,
I'm
well.
sorry that she had cancer, but you have to think about what you're doing to people.
Right,
And
right.
karma is real. Karma is real.
Yes, yes.
They
And
rob people to support their lavish lifestyle. They walk away with poor people's money. The next thing you know, you see them with these mansions and riding in these fancy cars and carrying these fancy purses and wallets and wearing all these shoes and outfits and stuff. That's off of somebody else's dime.
mhm,
You didn't even earn that. They didn't even earn that money legally, I don't believe, legally or honestly.
mhm,
But somehow, some way, I'm going to recover the money that I lost
mhm.
because I'm now an author. I'm working on some more projects and I'm going to recover the money that I lost. I will be doing that.
Tell me about the book you have written.
Well, there's 2 books that I've been involved in. They're out now. Sons Wonders and Miracles. There's a volume 1 and volume 2. And it just talks about a little bit about my childhood and who I actually am as a regular person that took on this family court system. The
Mm-hmm.
third book that I'm working on is a memoir. It's about me and my life, and it is about that court case because that's been a major part of my life for
Mm-hmm.
12 years now. So just in case people are going in family court or whatever, or have been in family court or know somebody that's been in family court, I would suggest that they purchase that book so they can become educated.
I agree. I agree.
You know, from a pro se litigant standpoint.
Definitely. Definitely. It's just so sad. Because like when I wrote my book, I wanted to tell my story, but I also wanted to explain little things that are going on behind the scenes and make it a handbook for people that are maybe going through this because they need to be aware of these personality disorders and what they do to your children.
That's right. I agree with that 100%. But like I said earlier, you think because you have a paid attorney and you walk into a courtroom, you think that you're going to get justice. In family court, a lot of times that's not what happens. And I've met people that have experienced the South Carolina family court system and they have become mentally ill. I've
Mm-hmm.
noticed. Sad to say, but I think it's just so much stress and so much trauma and so much abuse by the system, they can't handle it.
Oh, I totally agree with you there, as well as the kids, because when the kids go to the abuser, they develop a personality disorder themselves, and that's been proven.
I wouldn't doubt that. I wouldn't doubt that because the abusers are major manipulators. They display themselves as the victim in front of the courtroom. And as soon as they walk out of that courtroom, there's another person that appears, and it's the manipulator that takes total advantage of
Mhm.
people.
Right,
At least that's what happened in my situation.
and it's strange to see that happen. It's like they're a different person in the courtroom than they're a different person when you walk out of there.
That's right. And I wonder how the court system feels that now that all this information is coming forth. I wonder, how do they feel? I don't think they feel anything because they've gotten paid and
Mm,
they've moved on. I
mhm.
personally don't feel like they feel anything.
Yeah,
What about you?
I feel they moved on to their next victim. Uh,
That's what they do.
it's just I've just put everything in God's hands. And I've even said, God, get this family court judge out of my hair. I don't know what to do with it. I couldn't recuse him because as you well know, a lot of these judges, they just won't recuse. They're going to sit back and torture you until they are done.
They
And
want to try to weigh you down to try to discourage you for
right,
you to walk away. That's what the tactic is.
I kept coming back. I'm sure you were the same way as a pro se.
Yes.
Yeah, because persistence is everything. And I persistently prayed to God to deal with this judge, and he did. In fact, the day he took my sons away from me, um, March 2nd of 2015, the judge died 2 years later on March 2nd, 2017.
Wow.
So, people say, well, God, it takes too long. You know, God has to do things in his own timing.
That's right. Absolutely.
And
Karma is real.
yes,
It's very real.
and I know like we were going to also talk about the transfer of wealth
Oh, yes.
and I don't know how much you want to get into that as well.
I want to talk about that
Okay.
because I had to take my hard-earned money that I worked for, living, eating out of the Dollar Tree,
Mm-hmm.
making all these sacrifices, paying people US currency, and they did nothing to help me.
And that's human trafficking. I've just now, not I've come to this realization months and months ago that parents are being trafficked as well as the children.
And I'm looking on social media and I'm seeing people taking all these fancy vacations while they're supposedly representing me. And when we get into court, all these hiccups are happening. I'm like, no, I don't need you for anything else. You're fired.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, in fact, I was at a support conference with the ex and his attorney, and I almost bust out laughing because his attorney said that he's taking his wife, who's very ill, he's taking her to Disneyland to help cheer her up. And I was going to kick my ex under the table, but that would have been assault and battery. But I was going to say, buddy, you're paying for his trip to Disneyland, stupid.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
They insert their personal stuff. And
Yes.
then they start talking about people's health problems, like the people on the opposing side.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fighting for my kid. I
Right.
have some.
Oh, oh, I can't hear you. Oh, I can't hear you. Are you there? Okay, we're back. We were talking about the transfer of wealth and the violations put on other people. And, we were talking about, how these things happen where there's no evidence and, there's just, what happened with you with this transfer
A
of,
excuse me, doing a transfer of wealth, I
right.
actually had to pay my abuser. I
Oh,
had to give him my financial wealth through means of child support. And I also had to give the attorneys in the court system and all of the, let me see, legal people that were involved in the case, I had to pay them too. And they were not working in my best interest.
oh,
So that was a transfer of my wealth and my hard earned money to people that didn't deserve it and to people that didn't work for it.
right. Boy, our cases are almost the same.
Yep. I'm just 20 years of my life, you can say, that it's been affected financially because of this case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in more ways than one. Like you said, it affects your health because they don't care. And it's
They don't
extortion.
care.
Yeah,
They don't care.
it's
I
extortion.
believe it's extortion. It's I believe violations of the RICO Act to me.
Mm-hmm.
And they would much rather you be quiet and them go on and live their lifestyles and stuff with your money. And
Mm-hmm.
they don't really care how it affects you. It makes them no difference as long
Right.
as they get what they want.
Oh, definitely. Going back to my child support conference because they were coming after me for child support after they cost me my career as a registered nurse. And this is before I lost my nursing career. But the opposing attorney said, why don't you be a traveling nurse? Because these traveling nurses at that time made $45 and upwards. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they're making now. But I said, no, I'm not going to be a traveling nurse because I want to see my kids. And I said,
And that was your right.
right.
I was working part-time when we first went into court for the divorce because I was attending dental hygiene school. And when I really look at the situation, it cost me way more than $100,000 because I had actually paid. You have to pay that money up front in, training like that. And
Mm.
so I had gotten in and I had taken all the prerequisites, but it came down to my son and me not being able to concentrate. So I dropped out of that program and I had spent all this money. So they basically cost me a career also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is another thing the public needs to know.
Yeah, they costed me a career.
Yeah, the loss of your career, the loss of your concentration, the PTSD.
I couldn't even get through dental hygiene school. And prior to that, in surgical tech school, I was on the president's list and the dean's list. So that's a reflection of how things like this can affect you psychologically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a big psychological game that they play, and they really don't care what happens to the kid. Uh, and the thing is, what happens to the kid also happens to the parent. I mean, the parent is important too because they're suffering over handing their children over to an abuser.
That's right. And some of these people in these schools, they think that they know these parents. They side with people too.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Whoever can convince them. I was always quiet when I went into the school and made sure that my child had lunch money, made sure he got to the classroom and stuff. I
Mhm.
didn't have a personal relationship with the people in the schools,
Mhm.
but my former abuser, he had developed a relationship with them because that's the area where he was from. So automatically, they went on his side against me,
Mhm.
not even knowing me.
You know, this is so true. People don't realize that these school districts get involved when they should not get involved because I was supposed to attend a meeting with the principal, and I didn't know anything about the meeting. So I get a phone call at 11 o'clock in the morning, and the principal is saying, "Oh, how come you weren't there at the meeting?" I said, "What meeting?" And he said, "Well, you were supposed to be here at 10 o'clock, or I think it was like 9:30. And I didn't your ex tell you?" And I said, "Why would he tell me?" Like, are you that stupid? So I made an appointment and I came in to see him. And he said, your ex got a little emotional. And there were 9 teachers in that meeting. He commanded a meeting of 9 teachers to
And
go.
they all probably got on his side too. I wouldn't
Right.
be surprised
I was shocked that I'm like 9 teachers. Okay, I want these 9 teachers to talk to me. Where are
because
they?
he played victim and they
Yes.
all felt sorry for him and
Right.
they all got on his side.
Right.
That's what happened,
Well, I showed him,
probably.
yeah, I showed this principal a letter from a certain psychiatrist who it was a very disparaging letter of what we were dealing with. And after the principal read it, he said, "I don't want to get involved." And I said, "Guess what? You already are."
Yeah, you already are,
Yeah,
along with those teachers that had no idea what was happening in that situation. He was involved as well.
right.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad how
Hmm.
these perpetrators can recruit people. They go and play the victim, as we said earlier,
Hmm.
and they actually recruit people, have them feel sorry for them, and then you're ganged up on by just about everybody in society.
Right. Bingo.
That's pretty sad.
Hmm.
But I hope everybody that got involved in my case, they can hear the truth. All they have to do is go to social media. Everything gets the truth. Nobody has ruled me into any court saying, "Oh, she made this up" or "she's done this." I haven't done anything wrong. It's my truth,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I'm gonna continue to express it.
Well,
I
we
don't care about anybody's reputation. What about you?
same here. It and plus it's on, it's all public. People can look this up. They can look
Yeah,
up my name and my court cases and find out who the bad players are.
mine too. And they're welcome to do it if they feel like that they want to do it. It's
Mhm.
there.
You know, I commend people for speaking out. And you know, how can people reach you if they have any questions?
I do have a website because there's some good that's come out of this tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to get an LLC.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a domestic violence advocate and motivational speaker. I speak out against domestic violence and tell my story and try to empower people with knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
The website is Evelyn the Domestic Violence Advocate at uniweb.com, UENI They can go to my website, and if they want to get in touch with me, they can get in touch with me there. I
Okay.
have two Facebook pages. One is Evelyn Hemphill, and the business Facebook page is Evelyn the Advocate LLC. We all need to start speaking out about this stuff and not being ashamed, because we can't change anything if we continue to accept these behaviors by the court system.
Right, right. Now I have another email from the last time you were on, which was ET Advocate LLC at gmail.com.
That's the email. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to add?
Did we did talk about the results of the fee disputes situation, didn't we?
I think that's where you broke up a little bit.
Oh, okay. Let's try to get back to the application for resolution of disputed fees. I have been barred. The application has been
Oh,
barred because 3 years has passed. And by me not being an attorney,
oh, that's
I
right.
didn't know that that was the rule.
Yeah, that's not
So I,
right either.
yeah, so I have no way of recovering money from this person that totally violated my rights
Oh,
and basically robbed me through the family court system.
that's a shame. Oh,
I have no way of recovering those funds now,
oh God. Yeah.
not directly from him, but from them. But I wish I could get a federal case going, but I don't know who would do that. Maybe one day it will happen in South Carolina. I hope so.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I've heard of children that have grown up and then sued family court for what they did to the family. I wish
Oh, really?
I wish more of them would.
I do too. Because nobody knows how they had to suffer
Mm-hmm.
with people that presented themselves one way before the court, and then when they got home, it was a different story. Nobody knows what those children had to go through.
Exactly.
All the attorneys were concerned about is their bank accounts, their fancy cars,
Mm-hmm.
their fancy homes, and other materialistic things.
Oh,
I
yes.
don't know how they sleep at night.
I don't know, but even my one attorney, um, he dumped me because I think I filed a complaint on him. And I said, okay, I want my file back. And he just wouldn't give it to me. And yet I had to point out some rule. I can't remember what the rule was. It's probably different in every state anyway to get my,
Probably some type of rule of professional conduct. That's
yeah,
probably what it was.
to get my paperwork. And so I eventually I could come and get all my files. And what he did was he just probably took the files and just dumped them in, and everything was out of date, out of place. And there were things missing. And when I got home, I looked at this mess and I said, God, you deal with him. That is really mean to do to someone who's already stressed out and going through this. And God did deal with him because about 3 years ago, he had a massive heart attack and died.
Wow.
So, you know what? God says, vengeance is mine. Let God do his thing.
I know when I was on the stand doing the divorce case, I whispered to God and I said this out loud: no weapon formed against me shall prosper. That's what I said when I was at the mercy of
Mhm,
the players of family court. So God came forth. It may not have been when I wanted him to,
mhm,
but here we are years later, and I have a voice and I'm telling the story about what actually happened. So I'm not no longer living in despair.
mhm.
I feel like I'm empowered now.
Oh, yes. You took a tragic, horrible thing that happened in your life and you turned it around and you're using it to help others.
And
And
I'm grateful.
oh, yes. And I'd like to have you come back on.
I would be glad to, Marianne.
Yeah, hey, don't jump off, okay?
Okay.
Slam the Gavel's a podcast. Help the public understand what really goes on in these family courtrooms. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me on Apple iTunes and Spotify, iHeartRadio, other platforms I don't know about. And feel free to buy me a coffee to help keep this podcast going. And thank you so much, Evelyn Hemphill. Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you.